Alrighty, so we got a little over an hour before the final game of match week number 17 is going to happen between the Seattle Sounders and Minnesota United. And then we, of course, will have the big one where we will have the CONCACAF Champions Cup final between the Vancouver Whitecaps and Cruz Azul. And I'm going to make individual review for both of those games. So tomorrow I only have to rely on one board and basically review the last four games of match week number 17. And I also want to congratulate LAFC, of course, winning that playing round against Club America. And whether you like it or not, and whether you think LAFC deserve to go into the Club World Cup or not, we're going to have free MLS team in the Club World Cup. And it's going to be very interesting to see how these free MLS team is going to do. Especially one of them is actually going to be playing against my favorite team in Europe in Chelsea. So that's going to be an interesting review when I talk about, especially knowing that I know a lot about the Chelsea player when they play against LAFC in one of the group stage game. But with that being said, let us actually begin by talking about these eight games to start part one of the review for match week number 17. All these games are pretty much gonna be 7:30 games, and then we got the two matinee game. But we start off with the first matinee game between the Quakes and St. Louis City. So St. Louis, of course, they got the benefit of the new interim head coach boost. We see this every time. Whenever a head coach is being fired, once the new interim head coach comes in, the team is going to immediately look much better than before. And likewise, in this game, there was no doubt the St. Louis played much better in this game compared to what we've seen doing this winless run over Olaf Melberg. I thought they were a little bit more direct going forward and definitely not afraid in terms of going for on the attacking end, and definitely not as defensive as we saw during their tenure with Olaf Melberg. But that was kind of, again, by design because, that was the frustration with a lot of St. Louis fans of Olaf Melberg setting the team way too defensive. And not to mention, I think it's clear that there is a pretty easy way to beat the San Jose Earthquakes right now. All you have to do is basically hit them on the transitional attack, because one thing that I think Bruce has got to figure it out is the fact that he can't just keep putting too many men forward and play a really high line. I think in these last two games, it's been shown that when they try to do that, yeah, they got punished more times or not. And I think this is also a game that, if I haven't said my case in terms of them needing a backup goalkeeper before, yeah, that is literally going to be right up there in terms of the top of the list of them needing a backup goalkeeper alongside with a couple of depth pieces in the defensive end. Maybe not even just depth pieces, but maybe some defensive pieces heading into the summer transfer window. Now, in the first half, Roberts with the game's first shot, but he heads this one wide. Keep in mind, the Quakes, they were kind of rolling a B team in this one, and knowing that, this is the third game in 7 days, and they have to play on a short rest, and especially play a matinee game. I'm not surprised that Bruce Arena decided roll in his B team. Although, again, when you decided to do that, there is a lot of risk in terms of it, especially when you're facing against a St. Louis side that is getting the new coach boost. I didn't think that this was going to go well for the Quakes in this one. But that being said, they were definitely on the front foot again with the possession, and once again play a high line. While St. Louis, they were going direct early because they kind of recognized that, well, the Quakes are going to play at the high line. We're going to try to hit them on the transition. Hartel then goes on his bike but didn't connect this one in the 12th minute before Buda would hit one right to Berkey after just a bad giveaway from St. Louis in the 13th minute. The first shot for St. Louis did see Klaus heads it into the side netting. The shots were 3-1 for the Quakes early in this one. Durkin would then puts it high from long range before Leuven would miss wide from long range in the 23rd minute. St. Louis definitely were putting some good pressure after that. And again, they were doing really good in terms of putting pressure because they were playing that transitional game. They were really setting this Quakes defense apart because of the way that the Quakes are putting a pretty high line in this one. There was a shout for a penalty for St. Louis not given. Berkey then tipped Lopez shot over before he tipped Lopez shot over, this time from long range in the 37th minute. The Quakes continue to get some opportunity, but is this kind of one of those games where I've seen this happen before where the Quakes, they know how to generate chances. It's about putting the chances away. I find it baffling that I hear the play-by-play announcer mentioned the fact that the Quakes is the highest scoring team, and the fact that he's kind of shocked the fact that how inefficient the Quakes are going forward. Yeah, you probably have not watched the Quakes enough this season, because while yes, the Quakes is the highest scoring team in MLS, although I'm not quite sure if that's the case anymore after today. Well, the thing that frustrates me about the Quakes is that they could be scoring more goals than they are right now. They are leading the league in terms of XG, and it's not even close. And they are also leading the league in terms of underperforming their XG. And we've seen it so many times this season where despite the fact that yes, they know how to score goals, they're not being clinical enough, and in most part, not being clinical enough in terms so overcoming the shortcoming when it comes to the defense and also the backup goalkeeper because yeah, in the fourth minute stoppage time, this is an example of it. As Jean Claus would score the opener for St. Louis from Leuven to make it 1-0 in favor of St. Louis. It was poor defending there from the Quakes, but even worse goalkeeping. I mean, Earl Edwards Jr., of all the goodwill that he built up in that Cali Clasico, yeah, it was all ruined in this one. Just poor goalkeeping here. Didn't come off his lines there, and by the time he did, it was way too late. Klaus puts it in there, and just like that, St. Louis take the lead as we head to halftime with them leading 1-0. In the second half, Silverwood hits it right to Edward Jr. As I thought St. Louis started the better side. The Quakes still had problem when it comes to dealing with long balls and transitional moment. Buda would then puts one into the stands before Edwards tips Silver's shot over the Quakes. Definitely realized that, yeah, it's time to bring on the cavalry. I think Bruce Arena realized that, yeah, before this game gets away from them, they need to bring on the cavalry and maybe get something out of this one. So Martinez, Espinoza, and LaRue was summoned into this game. Jude would then hits one right to Berkey in the 66th minute before Roberts heads it high on the looper in the 73rd minute. I thought St. Louis was kind of start hanging on a bit, and this is kind of the thing that can happen when you're a team that's not playing very well. You kind of started to hang on a bit, especially with the Quakes bringing their attacking weapons and trying to press for the equalizer. And as we said before, when you're trying to hang on to the lead, especially when you're a bad team, not only that doesn't bode well, but yeah, that's probably not gonna hold up because in the 83rd minute, Joseph Martinez would score from Costa to tie the game up at one apiece, and Joseph needed that one because he hasn't really been in good form in these last couple of games. But he scored here to tie the game up at one apiece, and you sense the momentum was with the Quakes. Now they're gonna try to maybe push to get the win, right? But instead, a penalty was given to St. Louis because oh yeah, I forgot the Quakes does not have a defense, and besides Daniel, their goalkeeping situation is still bad because here Edwards Jr. brought down Etcher in the box, so here comes Leuven a chance to give St. Louis a lead and potentially the win, and he does. So that made it 2-1 in this one. One more note in this game, Wallem did get himself a second yellow card at the end of this game, and really just a needless second yellow card. He kicked the ball away when he's already on a yellow card. That is obviously a big no-no. So yeah, he was sent off in this one. It didn't really matter because in the end, St. Louis was able to win 2-1 in this one as the shots in this one 12 shots for the 11 that St. Louis had. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 4 shots off target for the 3 that the Quakes had, 4 shots that was blocked for the 2 that St. Louis had, and possession wise 52% possession compared to 48% possession that St. Louis has in this game. That's now 5 straight win that St. Louis has had against the Quakes. So, coming into this game, I wasn't surprised the fact that the Quakes could lose this one. It's not just because of the new interim head coach boost that St. Louis, of course, clearly got in this one, but the fact that the Quakes they just does not match up with St. Louis well. I mean, they're pretty much like the Seattle of what I think of Minnesota when they play against them, where for whatever reason St. Louis have just absolutely owned the Quakes. They even mentioned the fact that the Quakes have never led against St. Louis City. That's crazy to see that in the 5 matches that both of these teams play, St. Louis have never trailed against the San Jose Earthquakes. So in some way, if you're St. Louis, if you really desperately need a win and things are falling apart and you need someone to give you some call off the back, why not call the San Jose Earthquakes? And again, it also helped the fact that they get a new they fire Olaf Melberg and decide to bring a new interim head coach that of course gets that boost. But we'll see whether or not if that boost will last for a bit. Because last time when they did get an interim head coach and John Hackworth in there, that interim head coach boost did last for a while to a point where if they would have made that decision a little bit earlier or maybe even make those signings like a little bit earlier, they would have made the playoffs last season. So we'll see whether or not if this is going to be the same case, and there could be a case that it could because they fire Olaf Melbourne relatively early. They still have a uh pretty long part of the second half of the season to get this correct, and maybe try to do something they did last season, which is bringing the right signing, and especially if you're Lutz, you have to bring in the right signing because he's under a lot of pressure right now with the way that after Olaf Melberg got fired, he got that hiring wrong. Now the pressure is on him to get things going and trying to steer the ship in the correct course for the St. Louis side. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, we got Nashville and NYCFC. And I got to say, this was a game that I thought Nashville was going to win easily. Like, they pretty much dominate most part of the first half in this game. But then the second half happened. And, credit to this NYCFC side, they definitely show some fight in this one. And as a result, they get a hard-earned point in this game against Nashville. Now, in the first half, Zimmerman would heads it wide from close, as I thought Nashville was on the front foot looking for the opener. There was a shout for a penalty for Nashville not given. Mukta then hits one to Knoxville in the 12th minute. The shots were 7-0 for Nashville early on. I mean, it was all Nashville up to this point, and NYCFC clearly has not showed up in this game whatsoever. Zimmerman would then hits it wide from close before score with the game's first shot for NYCFC, but he missed that one wide. And then Martinez was in on goal here, but he was denied by Joe Willis because again, Martinez this season he hasn't really had a lot of luck in front of goal this season. But there's no doubt that NYCFC finally woke up in this game. And now, can they get themselves the opening goal? Well, the answer is no, because Nashville finally made the pressure paid off in this early game. As Sam Surridge, he just cannot stop scoring right now. He scored from Mukta and Cochran to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville. Risa did look to respond, but he hits it right to Willis before Mukta went beast mode there, but he hits it right to Freeze in the 36th minute. But in the 42nd minute, guess who? It's Sam Surridge again. Like I said, he just cannot stop scoring right now. He scored from Cochran to give Nashville a 2-0 lead. I gotta say, Matthew Cochran, making his rare appearance for Nashville, he had a really good game in this one. Nashville, started to have some really good young talented player, and what a difference it make when you see this team finally decide to give their youngster a chance, because you will never see that under Gary Smith. Gary Smith's side usually doesn't give a lot of these youngster a chance, but BJ Callahan definitely has gave some of these youngster some moments, and these youngsters are definitely paying him off by having good performance. And Matthew Cochran is another guy to write about. But we do head to halftime with Nashville leading 2-0, and you're just thinking, well, this looks like it's going to be a rout because Nashville is all over NYCFC in this one. However, in the second half, 52nd minutes into this game, NYCFC got the response as Hannes Wolf would score to make it 2-1 in favor of Nashville. Speaking of a guy that has been in pretty good goal scoring form, Hannes Wolf have definitely been so. But in the 57th minute, Martinez did look to tie it because, like I said he gets himself in a good position, but he hits the side netting because that's how his season has gone. But there was no doubt the momentum was with NYCFC, and again, as much as the Nashville kind of dominate this one, they definitely have not come out the second half at all. In fact, the level has clearly dropped on this team. That's something that BJ Cowan is probably not going to be very happy with his squad. Though that being said, in the 61st minute, Surridge did go for his hat trick, but his shot was deflected off the post, and then Mukhtar had a second chance of it here, but somehow in some way Freeze was able to get himself back up to robbed him there. Now Nashville fans feel like that ball actually crossed the line before Freeze actually made the save, and there was a couple replay. It was very close. I think it might have just been on the line there, and again, no goal line technology, so we don't really know for sure that if it actually came off the line or not. We only get like an angle it, and from that one angle behind the goal, it definitely looked like that ball did not cross the line fully. So yeah, VAR basically says no. They obviously did a quick check of that. Risa then struck the post on the free kick in the 66th minute before Martinez puts it wide from close range. As all of a sudden, both of these teams were getting some good chances, and now it feels like it's kind of up for grabs of who can get this crucial goal. Perez tried to do so, but he hits it right to Freeze. That came off of a bad turnover from NYCFC. So yeah, that's a big no-no when the game is really start to open up. And really, as time winds down, you can see that Nashville kind of started to revert back to them old self. Maybe trying to go with a very low block, trying to seal this one, as we've seen them do an excellent job to do so time and time again. Not this time though, because in the 87th minute, Hannes Wolf would score again. This time he scored from Parks to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and that would be the final score of this game. As NYCFC, you got to give credit to Pascal Janssen side. They look like they were all done in the first half. It looks like it was going to be a rout, but they hung in there and got a big point against one of the hottest team in the Eastern Conference, that is Nashville SC. Shots in this one, 17 shots for the 13 that NYCFC had, 4 shots on goal for the 5 that Nashville has, 2 shots off target for the 3 that NYCFC had, 5 shots that was blocked for the 8 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. And for BJ Cowan's side, he will not be very happy with this result. I mean, his team was cruising in this one, and that the old saying, the 2-0 lead is the most dangerous lead, and when you decide to give a goal back to your opposition, yeah, that's can happen where the momentum all of a sudden swing into NYCFC hands, and not to mention not putting away some of their chances in the second half and restore that 2-goal lead. That obviously came back to haunt this Nashville team as well. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is Toronto and Charlotte FC. And I gotta say, this almost was looking like a repeat of what we saw in the middle of the week between them and the Philadelphia Union, where Toronto, for the most part, was not in this game. They were getting dominated, but then they had one moment on the counterattack, and it was almost the same guy that scored on the counterattack that would have given the shock lead for TFC against Charlotte. But alas, that didn't happen, and Charlotte got a much needed win in this one. A win that you got to say it was kind of a must win for them on the road when you're facing against one of the worst team in the Eastern Conference and one of the worst team in the league in general. Now in the first half, Bronico would puts it high from long range before Abada missed wide from close range. It was all Charlotte early. You can just sense that there's a lot of urgency on this team because of how bad the run of form has been under Dean Smith, that they were immediately pushing for the opening goal. Johnson would then deny Abada from close before Ajiman had a shot that was clear off the line but falls to Pep Biel, who puts it over. It's just wave after wave of pressure up to this point. Charlotte was pressing hard to try to get the opening goal. Johnson would then deny Zaha from close before Bronico would head it wide from the corner. The shots were 8-0 for Charlotte up to this point, but the problem is they couldn't solve Johnson because, again, Sean Johnson this season, I think he has had an incredible season. And if it wasn't for him, I think this TFC side would be giving up more goals than they are giving up right now this season, because he then denied Zaha from close to the 35th minute. Westwood would then puts it over from long range. Charlotte would finish the half out shooting TFC 12 to nothing. And yet we're still 0-0 in this game, and this is where, if you're a Charlotte fan, that's got to be a little concern. The fact that you are outplaying your opponent and nothing to show for, and with the way that maybe Robin Fraser is going to make some adjustment in the second half, they're probably not going to get as much chances as they did in the first half. Now in the second half, though, Zaha would then hits it right to Johnson in the 49th minute before the first shot for TFC finally came in the 53rd minute, and it saw Osorio puts it high from long range. And then in the 54th minute, this is what I was talking about, on a counter-attacking moment, Bryn Hinson was in on goal, and he scored that goal against the Union to really surprise everyone with the way that the Union were dominating that game, and he almost did it again. But this time, Bingham comes up with a big save to deny him there. So David Bingham, of course, getting a rare start in this one. Didn't really had too much to do, but that was a huge save because it looked like it was deja vu all over again with TFC completely scoring against the run of play, despite the fact that they were under a heavy amount of pressure throughout this game. And I even said it's a shade of what we saw on Wednesday night. TFC almost scored against the run play and get the opening goal, but instead, in the 56th minute, Charlotte finally buries their opportunity as Pep Biel would score from Abada and Zaha to make it 1-0 in favor of Charlotte. There's got to be a lot of relief in that Charlotte face when that goal came in. And I'm pretty sure the players are probably relieved as well because they've been putting so many pressure, but it just kind of, you sense maybe it's just kind of one of those days where it's not going to fall for them. Dominguez did look to respond, but he missed wide there before Johnson denied Abada from close. And then Abada scuffed a shot in the back post there in the 74th minute. And yeah, it's safe to say that Abada was definitely kind of snaked in this one. He just couldn't get a goal in this one. Insigne then hits one right to Bingham in the 75th minute. But then in the 90th minute, Anjuman basically put this game to ice. So he scored here to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. It came off a bad turnover from TFC, and they were rightfully punished because of that. And yeah, in the end, Charlotte, they get a much needed win in this one, 2-0 win against TFC. The shots in this one, 18 shots for the 7 that TFC had, 2 shots on goal for the 9 that Charlotte has, 4 shots off target for the 3 that Toronto has, 2 shots on blocked for the 5 that Charlotte has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that Charlotte has in this game. And most importantly for Charlotte, they get a clean sheet in this one. That has come rare and far between for Dean Smith's side, which is kind of a crazy thing to say about this team, considered last season this was almost like a regular occurrence, but this season we talk about their defensive struggle in especially in these last couple of games, so it's got to feel good at least for this back line to at least get get a clean sheet in this one, and maybe have that belief that they can start to turn things around amid this bad run of form that this team is in right now. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, speaking of bad run of form, all of a sudden Orlando City have found themselves in a bit of a downward turn. I mean, who would have thought that after that 3-0 win against Inter Miami, that was kind of the peak of Orlando City? Because ever since that win, it's been kind of gone downhill. Though I will say that this game, the scoreline really didn't indicate the fact that Orlando City should have at least got a point out of this game. I mean, it also doesn't help the fact that when they found themselves 3-0 down in this one, but they had a lot of chances in this game to make this interesting. And I thought Chicago was going to go what we usually see what the Fire does in previous year, which is blow a 3-0 lead. And I feel like previous Fire team would have probably done that. They probably would have blown this 3-0 lead and probably would have lost this game in general. But with that being said, they score first 5 minutes into this game as Zichanago was scored for Pineda to give the Fire a 1-0 lead. It's the first shot of the game, and yeah, for Galese, Galese definitely have had a bounce back year this year after the last couple of years. He definitely has kind of taken a downward turn, but yeah, this is kind of a moment that is revert back to last season. Just this one was hit straight toward him. Galese just didn't catch this one. He fumbled this one. It goes into the back of the net, and yeah, that is definitely one that Galese would not only want to have back, but one that you would expect him to make that save. But that being said, besides that howler moment for Galese, not much really happened, at least in the first 15 minutes. Bamba would then miss wide from long range before Brady denied Ojeda from long range. Ojeda then scuffed a shot, but it falls right to Freeman. But the flag immediately came up for offside because Freeman was in an offside position. I mean, the play didn't even complete before they stopped because of offside. All of a sudden, Martin Ojeda has kind of been a little snake bin. I mean, I remember a couple of games ago where he cannot stop scoring, but now he's starting to become a little bit ice cold in the last couple of games, and that might be bad news for this Orlando City side. Well, there was no doubt that Orlando have woke up. They were pressing to try to get the equalizer. Montreal would then miss wide from close, but then the 31st minute, completely against the run of play, Hugo Kuipers would score from Zichanago and Dean to make it 2-0 in favor of Chicago, and then less than 90 seconds later, he would score again, as he would score once again from Zichanago to make it 3-0 in favor of the Fire. Where in the world is the Orlando defense? I mean, these last two goals are just way too easy for Chicago to cut them open there like that. And maybe this is kind of a sense of the defense just getting completely rattled, but still, even that's just no excuse to see how bad defensively they were in those moments. So yeah, they found themselves three nothing down, a very unfamiliar position that they found themselves in at home, because this team this season they've been very good at home. Though they did get one back in the 40th minute as Freeman would score from Ojeda to give Orlando City some life there, and that was one that Brady kind of got flat-footed there, and I'm not quite sure did that actually took a slight deflection there. It kind of maybe did a little bit, but even then, I mean, for Brady, he probably would feel like he should have done better there. Especially, he shouldn't be getting flat-footed from that kind of moment, especially him getting called up by the national team. That might be a moment that I don't think U.S. fans are going to be that excited when he see him getting flat-footed of a deflection that definitely didn't seem like it's a big deflection whatsoever. Pasalic then looked for another, but he puts this one high. But we do head to halftime with Chicago leading 3-1, but Orlando City was pressing hard to try to get another one back. As in the second half, Brady would tip over past the shot, and in some way, Brady kind of redeemed himself because for the rest of the game, he was kind of one of the main reason why this was 3-1 for the rest of this game. But no doubt, Orlando kind of picked up where they left off in the end of the first half, pressing hard to try to get another. Pasalic would puts it wide from long range before Gutman had a shot that actually struck the post, and Bamba actually got a second chance of it, but he puts that one over. So yeah, Chicago almost made it 4-1 in this one, and that miss looked like it could have been costly because Orlando immediately press pressed back to try to get that goal back. Started with Brady denying Enrique from close in the 62nd minute, and then the post would victimize Orlando this time, denying Montreal from long range. Orlando once again was putting all sorts of pressure, and the question now is that can they of course finish, because they if they were a little bit finished, this probably would be 3-2 in relatively quick fashion. Freeman would then hits it high from close range before Brady denied Enrique from close. Montreal then puts it wide on the header. As I said, if Orlando would have finished, this probably should have been 3-2 by then. Enrique would then hits it wide from close range before in the 7 minute of stoppage time late in this game when Orlando realized that this game is pretty much out of reach. Haile Selassie looked to put the cherry on the top, but he puts that one wide there. As in the end, Chicago a big win on the road. That's kind of been the theme this season. Greg Berhalter's side and this Fire team has been kind of been road warriors, taking down some really good team on the road, and they're adding Orlando City to the latest list of good road team, or good home team that they beat on the road. As in the end, they get the 3-1 win in this one. The shots in this one, 28 shots in this game compared to just 10 that Chicago has. Yeah, Orlando was peppering that Fire goal throughout this game. 5 shots on goal compared to 4 that Chicago has. 8 shots off target to 5 that the Fire has. No shots that was blocked compared to 13 that Orlando City has. I mean, it was a block party in this one. You gotta say for in this game, but possession wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Fire has in this game. And like I said, in previous year, Chicago probably would have blown this lead. They would have absolutely blown this lead and probably would have ended up losing this game. But there's just something about Greg Berhalter and the identity of this Fire team, and that there's that belief that this might be finally the year that the curse comes to an end, that they finally will make the playoffs for the first time since this channel started covering MLS. And if they keep putting these kind of results, they're definitely on their way to finally ending that drought, which is again the longest active drought. They have not made the playoffs since 2017. It's hard to believe that is the case, even with how the playoff format has kind of been in favor of a lot of teams to have a good chance to make it to the playoffs. Even if you finish the season mediocre, they still haven't quite do so. But something tells me maybe the curse might finally end this year. But for Orlando City, this was a very frustrating resort. Again, I didn't think they played badly, at least on the attacking end. But you cannot find yourself 3-0 down in a game and expect to get a resort. Like more times or not, when you find yourself 3-0 down, it's pretty much close to being game over before it even started. But with that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the last 4 games to finish up the review of match week number 17, at least looking at these first 8 games, that is. So moving on, we got Montreal versus the New England Revolution. So it took a while for the Revs to finally get things going, but once they did get things going, it was kind of never in doubt the fact that they were going to get the win, and it also kind of helped that one of their former teammates decided to help them out in this game and do a pretty disgusting thing act to get a chance for them to get all 3 points again for the refs. Now in the first half, the first shot of the game, see Shankalai shot that was denied by Siwas before the first shot for Montreal. See Sealy puts it wide from close. This was actually a pretty close game, at least for the first 30 minutes or so. Saliba then hits it right to Ivicic as the shots were 2 apiece early in this game. Saliba then puts it wide from close as Montreal was definitely getting some good chances and looked for the opening goal. Baroni would then miss wide from long range in the 28th minute, but then in the 36th minute, he would see red here and just a rush of blood here from Giacomo Veroni. A violent contact there on a kick out on Hughes there. There was absolutely no need for him to do that. So just like that, Montreal was down to the 10 men. But despite that, I thought they did a pretty good job in terms of limiting the chances that New England has. But that also maybe due to the fact that New England, they weren't really showing a lot of urgency even when they were up a man. Ganago would then miss wide from close in the first minute of stoppage time, and we had to halftime scoreless between Montreal and New England. Now in the second half, whatever Caleb Porter said to his team at the halftime talk, it definitely worked because they definitely showed more urgency in the second half, and it helped when they get the first goal in the 48th minute as Peyton Miller would finally score his first career MLS goal from fine goal to make it 1-0 in favor of New England. This was always coming. I mean, I have been very impressed of how Peyton Miller has played for this ref side, and do not be surprised that he's going to get some offer overseas. I mean, he's been a very good player this season and a hotly prospect that may even get a chance to play in Europe and maybe even had some national team that kind of call up in his future as well. Shankalai then looked for another, but he hits it right to Siwas in the 53rd minute. But then in the 55th minute, New England doubled their lead as Ilya Feingold would score from Polster to make it 2-0 in favor of New England. It took a slight deflection there, but New England wouldn't care. They were up 2-0 in this one, and then it looked like they were 3-0 when Ganago puts it into the back of the net, but the flag did not agree with him, so the goal was disallowed offside. Whatever Caleb Porter said at halftime, it clearly fired up this team because it just kind of felt like it was night and day to see how the refs attack here in the second half. There was again just more urgency here in the second half that they want to get themselves a couple of goals. And this Montreal team, we talk about how they've been already on a bad run of form. Yeah, that belief kind of stopped believing in the second half with them giving chances away. Diaz then puts it wide from close in the 72nd minute. Before in the 87th minute, New England would make it 3-0 as Ilya Feingold would score again. He scored from Miller and Heel to make it 3-0 in favor of New England. Pierce then hits one right to Ivicic in the first minute of stoppage time, and the boos were raining down once again at Stade Saputo. It's been a common theme there. The fans obviously are not happy in terms of how this team has played. They're heading to probably the worst season that they've ever had in their franchise history. As in the end, New England gets the 3-0 win in this one. The shots in this one: 15 shots for the 7 that New England has, 5 shots on goal for the 2 that Montreal has, 7 shots off target for the 2 that New England has, no shots on block for the 5 that Montreal has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to the 49% possession that Montreal has in this game. And by the way, New England is now 9 games unbeaten ever since they start off slow. Yeah, it's safe to say that Caleb Porter's seat has pretty much been ice cold right now. And that who would have thought that no with the turnaround that they have, and who would have thought that I mean I had a feeling it was going to happen eventually with all the signings that they made this offseason. It was going to hit, and it's definitely hitting right now for this New England team. But even then, I didn't think it was gonna hit so well to a point where they're now 9 games unbeaten and are really kind of flying under the radar. I don't think a lot of people have given New England credit of how good they've been playing lately, and as a result, they have now rise themselves up in the Eastern Conference standing to a point where they could be a dark horse team by the end of this season if they keep playing the way that they're playing right now. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, boy, I definitely did not see this coming. I mean, this was a game where, it was built as a heavyweight matchup between two good team, but in the end, Miami, they definitely silenced those doubters in this one. And if you're Columbus, boy, there might be some concern after this game because this is now 6 games without a win, and in this game, this was probably the worst game that Wilfred Nancy's side has played during his tenure, and I don't think it's even close. In the first half, in the 4th minute, the first shot of the game, oh god, what did I wrote? Oh, I see Aliu puts it wide from close in the 4th minute, but in the 13th minute, Miami would take the lead as Alande would score from Messi to make it 1-0 in favor of Inter Miami. Yeah, Hagen definitely probably should have done better there in terms of getting beat in the near post. And I know some Columbus fan will say, well, if Patrick Schulte was in this game, they probably wouldn't lose by that much, or at least it's competitive. Maybe it would be, but I think this was just a combination of Miami not only silencing those doubters, but probably are now back to being in good form just in time for the Club World Cup, and Columbus just simply playing the worst game I think they have ever played under Wilfred not Nancy tenure. But in the 15th minute, Miami would score again as the GOAT himself would score here, and yeah, Nick Hagelin not covering himself with glory here, just kind of gave this ball right to Messi there. And when you do that, yeah, the goal is always going to punish you. And to be fair, Hagen actually almost kept this one out, but just not enough to keep this one out. And just like that, it was 2-0 in favor of Miami. With a nightmare start for the crew in this one. Just two self-inflicted mistake, which is something you just don't see often with a Wilfred Nancy side make this season. Suarez would then puts it wide from close, but in the 24th minute, the GOAT would score again. He scored from Busquets to make it 3-0 in favor of Miami, and the route is definitely on up to this point. I mean, Miami probably have heard all those doubters for the past couple of weeks, and they definitely took it personally in this game and really started to look like more like the team from last season that won the supporter shield. Suarez then looked for a fourth, but he was denied by Hagen, and like I said, the route is definitely on. This could get really ugly as Miami. They were showing no mercy in this one. They want to make a statement after this game. Aliu would then puts it wide from close before Hagen denies Suarez from close in the 45th minute. We do head to halftime with Miami with a commanding 3-0 lead. In the second half, Nagby would puts it high from long range before Rossi puts it high from long range, and it was a much better start for Columbus, at least in the beginning of the second half. And again, whatever Wilfred Nancy said, he probably gave an earful to his team the fact that they're down 3-0, it kind of worked out because they responded relatively well. Segovia would then puts it over from long range, but in the 58th minute, they get one back as Rivacoba would score from Chambos to make it 3-1 in this one, and you're just thinking maybe there could be a chance that they can come back, especially with how lackluster this Miami defense is. And once again, that goal it came out of a set pieces. They must be leading this season in the league in terms of most goal conceded off of set pieces. And again, not a big surprise because this is the biggest Achilles heel of this Miami team. They cannot defend set pieces this season, last season, and whenever season they're in. And it happened again, and you're just thinking, well, maybe there's slight hope because of the way that Columbus can show that good attacking threat and Miami can show some. Nope. In the 64th minute, Suarez would score for Messi to restore that free goal lead to make it 4-1. Messi then looked for his hat trick there, but he puts it over from long range. And then in the 84th minute, Russell Rowe would puts it over from long range. But in the 89th minute, Papa Pico make it 5-1. So he scored here from Messi to make it 5-1 in this game. It was a lovely pass there by the goal himself, who again, it just feels like he is definitely ready for the Club World Cup, and all those people are saying, "Oh, looks like he's started to become a bit washed." Yeah, he's definitely making some statement and seeing those doubters. This is why you should never doubt Messi because he probably have heard those voices, and when there's doubts that creep in, there's a reason why he is the GOAT himself. He's always going to respond to those doubters, and he's been responding well in these last couple of games. As in the end, Miami with an emphatic 5-1 win against the Columbus Crew. The shots in this one: 15 shots committed, 11 that Columbus had, 7 shots on goal committed, 1 that Columbus had, 6 shots off target committed, 4 that Miami has, 4 shots out of block committed, 3 that Miami has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Miami has in this one. And the only good news you got to say with Columbus is the fact that this is only one game, but again, this is now 6 games without a win for Wilfred Nancy's side. And doing this 6 game winless run, they haven't really been playing that badly. But the problem for them is that the attack hasn't really been as lethal that is, and then on the defensive side, you just saw in this game just getting absolutely run over by this Inter Miami team, and I'm pretty sure Columbus fans are begging to hope that Schulte is going to be back in goal because yeah, Nick Hagelin he definitely did not had a great game himself, and some Columbus fans saying that he hasn't really been a great goalkeeper, even though. I will say that even though Hagen had a bad game in this one, I don't think he's as bad as what some Crew fans have said. Some Crew fans have said that they should get rid of him straight away. Well, if you're gonna get rid of him, I mean, can we get him in the San Jose there as a Quakes fan? Can we get him in the summer transfer? No, because I'm pretty sure I would absolutely take Nick Hagelin as the backup goalkeeper for the Quakes rather than whatever Earl Edwards Jr. is putting in right now. Now, that being said, moving on into the last 2 games, we got Cincinnati versus DC United. So speaking of another team that is in some huge concern, Cincinnati is another team that do so. Remember a couple of weeks when I said that it feels like the East is gonna run for Ohio again? Whoops, I probably shouldn't have said that, and I apologize to both of the Ohio team that I said that because it feels like that's been a massive jinx, and that both of these Ohio team has been suffering a bit of a downturn in these last couple of games. And it also doesn't help the fact that Cincinnati literally conceded straight away in this game. As in the second minute of this game, Pirani would score from Schnegg to make it 1-0 in favor of DC, and it was a banger there from Pirani. But Cincinnati just got caught sleeping on a training ground routine on the set pieces, and get used to the to that because that would be a theme in this game where Cincinnati was having a tough time in terms of dealing with these training routine attempt that DC had, and also doing pretty bad job in terms of marking in the box. Enel then looked for another, but he hits it right to Saltano. DC definitely got off to the more promising start as they were looking for another goal. Evander would then puts it wide on the free kick, but in the 15th minute, Cincinnati does ties the game up as Kevin Denke would score from Evander to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And you're thinking, well, it looks like the Cincinnati is back rolling, right? Looks like they should be able brush off that early setback. Nope. Instead, in the 19th minute, DC takes the lead back as Antony would score from Briani and Herrera to make it 2-1 in favor of DC. And again, just non-existent set piece defending there from Cincinnati, just getting caught on a training ground routine kind of play for DC United, and once again was punished again. Schleck then looked for another, but he puts this one wide before Peglo would put it wide on the volley in the 28th minute. That also came off of a set piece as well. And again, the Cincinnati team, they just have no answer in terms of dealing with these DC set pieces way too many times that they're leaving player wide open in the box and having free range to shoot there. Saltano then denied Priani from close in the 37th minute before Evander would hit it right to Barraza in the fifth minute stoppage time, and we head to halftime with the shot being placed. Nobody's thought the DC would pull this one off in this one, but they are leading 2-1 heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Kamara would then heads it high from the corner. Not much really start the second half. Have not a lot of chances, and that usually always favored the road team, especially when they're leading. Orejano then hits it right to Barraza before Barraza denied Evander from close as Cincinnati finally started to show some pressure and try to get the equalizer. DC kind of was hoping to see this one out, and they did a pretty good job in terms of do so. In fact, they almost had a chance to make it 3-1 when Baji was in on goal there, but was denied by the post. It wouldn't have mattered either way because the flag went up. But in the end, DC, this is definitely one of the bigger surprises of this season. They go to Cincinnati and win 2-1 against Cincinnati. Now, granted, yes, Cincinnati hasn't been a relatively good run of form, but DC this season, I mean, with how mediocre at times and toward the bad mediocre side, nobody saw this coming with them pulling off the victory. The shots in this one, 11 shots for the 9 that Cincinnati has, 4 shots on goal for the 6 that DC had, 3 shots off target for the 2 that Cincinnati has, 3 shots was blocked for the 1 that DC had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that DC has in this game. By the way, the boos definitely rained down at TKO Stadium, and I don't blame the fans for booing because yeah, this is started to look like last season all over again. Just as we thought that Cincinnati was in a good run of form for at least the first couple of months of season, this was exactly around the same time last season when things are starting to go wrong for them. And who would have thought that the thing that went wrong for them last season was the same thing that I think it started to went wrong for this team this season as well, and that of course is injuries to their back line. I mean that Haglund injury. I mean we didn't know it before, but that injury in that game against Atlanta, that injury is now bigger than what we imagined before because this Cincinnati team has not defended very well in these last couple of games. They have not looked the same in terms of defensively ever since the Hagelin injury that we saw a couple of games ago. Now, moving on into the last game of this review, we got the Red Bulls and Atlanta United. So this was the game where you're hoping for Atlanta after these last two games where they of course turn things around that maybe this is a watershed moment that their season go back on track. Nope. Instead, this was a game where once again they got shut out. And again, it's almost like a rule of thumb where if Atlanta is not involved in a game more than 5 goals, they're probably gonna lose. So this game was less than 5 goals, so yeah, they lost this one. But in the first half, and just like this game, there was an early goal in this one as well as in the third minute of this game. Cameron Harper would score here to make it 1-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. It was the first shot of the game, and it just was a gift too. I mean, just a bad turnover there from Atlanta, and Cameron Harper took advantage of it. So just like that, it's 1-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. Almiron would look for the answer, but his shot was palmed away by Cornell. Not much really happened, at least in the start of these games. The shots were only one apiece in the first 23 minutes. Almiron would then flash it wide from close before Cornell denied Almiron from close, as Atlanta definitely has responded and they were looking to get the equalizer. However, in the 28th minute, against the run of play, Choupo-Moting would score from Harper and Hack to make it 2-0 in favor of the Red Bulls, and that second goal, which was an absolute killer for Atlanta United because they really lost the momentum after that conceding that second goal, and instead the Red Bulls were now the one that is looking to get that third goal. Ile would look to try to do so, but he hits this one right to Guzan. Like I said, the Red Bulls were having the momentum. The second goal that Atlanta conceded has really killed their momentum. Duncan would then puts it wide from long range, but we do head to halftime with the Red Bulls leading 2-0. In the second half, Latte Laugh would put the ball into the back net. Looked like his drought finally comes to an end. The flag did not agree with him there because yeah, it's just been that kind of season. I mean, are we getting to a point where we're gonna start to talk about Latte Laugh of being a huge loss? I mean, I know he had an incredible start to the season. And I know this might be as a classic example of a number nine that just have no confidence whatsoever in front of goal. And maybe if he can finally score a goal, maybe he can get back to his old self. But until then, I mean, this is started to end up to be one of the biggest busts we have seen in recent some memory, because the amount that they of course paid for Latte Laugh, and the fact that what he only have like 2 or 3 goals to his name so far to begin in this season. I mean, he is definitely heading up to that plus category, and just kind of sums up in terms of this $50 million attack for Atlanta that has just looked completely off this season. But that being said, the Red Bulls, I thought they got away with it because they didn't clear their lines there, and was very fortunate that the flag kind of bailed them out. Guzan then denied Frostberg after just another bad giveaway from Atlanta, and really as the time winds down, where in the world was the pushback from Atlanta United? Because this was way too easy for the Red Bulls to close this game out. Though in the 87th minute, Cornell would absolutely rob TRA on the doorstep of goal before Latte Lab had a header that was punched away by Cornell. And I think, well, they probably saw what I wrote, because finally they started to show some pushback to try to make this game interesting. Though Goma did have a chance to close it out, but he flashed it wide from close range. But the Red Bulls still get the win here. They win 2-0 against Atlanta United in this game. Like I said, if it's a game under five goals that's being scored by both teams, Atlanta's probably not going to win it. The shots in this one, 10 shots for the 8 that the Red Bulls had, 4 shots on goal for the 3 that Atlanta has, 3 shots off target compared to 2 that the Red Bulls had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 3 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to the 46% possession that Atlanta has in this game. And by the way, this is the first time that the Red Bulls have won 3 in a row since 2020. It's hard to believe that they haven't had a lot of these games in the last couple of years where they go on a bit of a winning streak, but that's exactly what the Red Bulls are in right now. But for Atlanta United, yeah, it feels like it's back at the square one. And I think when you look at these last couple of games when they were scoring, it's not because of the fact that the $50 million attack was scoring. A lot of the goals that was scored in these last couple of games were by role player. And while it's great to see your supporting cast score the goal, the 50 million attack, these guys, they have to step up. Like this is gonna might start to go down as one of the biggest bust in terms of how bad this $50 million attack has, and that it might be even video worthy in terms of talking about what has completely gone wrong for this Atlanta team. And just looking at in terms of some of the biggest busts we have seen in recent memory, I mean, Latte Laugh, Marunchuk, and even Lobjanidze at in of how bad his season has gone with no goals to his name to start. I mean, it really needs to be studied of how in the world did this 50 million attack, and how this was supposed to be deemed as one of the best attacking team in the league, have these kind of games game week in and week out. But there you have it. That is pretty much it when it comes to looking at all of these games to or at least the first 8 games to kick off match week number 17. Of course, tomorrow I'll look at part 2, looking at the last 4 games, but I'll also will do an individual review of the Minnesota versus Seattle game, because it's a lone Sunday game that is. And then of course I would especially do an individual review of the CONCACAF Champions Cup final between Vancouver and Cruz Azul, and hopefully by the end of that tonight we'll be talking about the Vancouver Whitecaps being the second MLS team to climb the mountain and conquer the CONCACAF Champions Cup mountain, and not talk about how free space is disappointment again, and that MLS team once again fail in the final as we've seen over the years. But there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.